Hello, everyone. Welcome back to day 3 of Crypto Basel. I am your host, Lady Phoenix. I am joined by 3 very, very special guests. Hill Harper will be chiming in later, tapping in later. He's on set right now. We're going to kick this thing off with Raw Crawford, Amir Carter, and Law or Lawrence. Law, how do you want to? You want to be Law or Lawrence?
I'll be
Sorry.
good. Yeah, Law is good. Yeah.
Law is cool, right
Yeah.
on. So Law has a background in music. He is known for many, many things. He's a man of the culture. He's also an entrepreneur. He's an author, published author with a great book. You can talk to them about that later. He's also a visual artist and a badass producer, manager, father. Congratulations on your baby.
Thank
Congratulations
you.
on the Grammy nomination. You're doing big things. We're really honored to have you here.
Thank you.
We've
Thank you.
got you're welcome. We've got Amir Carter, who's a technologist, a startup founder. He's a visual artist, and he's also the man of the people. This whole panel is about gentlemen, men who are out in the culture doing big things. And I'm super, super honored to have Ra guiding this panel. Ra is an artist. He's also a technologist. He has a background in music. He produces music, and he's a man of the people. You're also involved in film. You're just doing so many things. Please,
Yeah.
gentlemen, introduce yourselves, say a little bit about you. And after that, I'm going to exit and let this be the vanguards talk. And I'll be back at the end to take questions.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, I'll be moderating this conversation with you gentlemen. I'm looking forward to it. So I think, following what Lady Fee said, maybe we'll start again with Law. I guess in your own words, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi guys. My name is Law, originally from New Orleans. Like Lady Phoenix mentioned earlier, just a entrepreneur, music producer, fashion guy. During this pandemic, just really and started and just tapped back into my skills as far as like visual art and stuff like that. So I recently finished up on some pieces called the COVID pieces that I want to release soon. And Lady Phoenix reached out and said the crypto space will be the most she think would be a good idea to release it there. And artist management just recently, this year, J Electronica, a written testimony, and then we got Act 2 out this year. It's Grammy nominated, so that was good. New father, just had a son. His name is Brilliant. Had him in April. We did a home birth, so that was probably like the most thrilling and I would say it's unexplainable, the experience of doing that at home in this pandemic, which I'm most proud of. And the blessing within this year has been that I have been with him every day since he's been born. So that's one thing that I know of. Any other circumstances that probably wouldn't happen. So I'm really appreciative of having this time with him while he's seeing every minute of his life so far. And honestly, just I'm a New Orleans guy. So when you meet me, I'm New Orleans first all the time. So you might hear my accent. And just really just putting on for the culture and maintaining the culture. And I know we use that word a lot, but really trying to maintain it and keep it ours, and then building up on the people that have, got me in this position where I am now. So that's about myself. I mean, I'm just all around guy. I mean, wake up and I light my own fire. I'm ready to go and just super excited to be on this panel.
Hey, that's great. Amir.
Yo, I'm heated. I'm pumped already listening to that. That's awesome, yo. First of all, Brilliant is a fire name. I'm gonna have to put that down somewhere. I'm gonna have to use that. Act 2, I mean, first of all, much appreciated to get Act 2 out, bro. You already know how long the coach has been waiting on Act 2 to come out, man. That's like a decade endeavor. So I mean, for you to have that out, man, that's amazing. So but anyway, also shout out to New Orleans. I've been there a couple of times. I love that place.
Nice.
I love how rich the history is, and it's been amazing just going down like Frenchman and everything, and just seeing like all the bands out and playing jazz. I'm like, like I wish I knew how to play instruments for real, because I just be out there all day, just like I'm contributing some way. Like it's such an interesting like cultural fountain. Especially to get inspired to make really dope art. So like, I love that place for sure. But in any case, more about me. What's up, everybody? My name's Amir. My art name is Sursu, kind of a play on my middle name, which is Suabe. I just kind of put a Sir in front of it. And I'm an artist and a designer. From an art perspective, I pretty much deal with the hybrid of graphic design and abstract portraiture. And then from a design perspective, I studied service design and innovation with a minor in anthropology and entrepreneurship at Savannah College of Art and Design. I bring a lot of ethics as far as the design industry is concerned, and figuring out kind of how can we build better systems, leveraging tools from a behavioral science perspective, that we're not creating things that are addicting. We're not creating things that create that have sort of an echo chamber or circular ecosystem of harm. And so we're inviting something that helps enhance someone's quality of life, not degrades. We've seen a lot of the conversations in technology centered around how like Facebook has bad practices when it comes to its design, or like Instagram now, where it used to be a place to where you could have an algorithm that you see your friends and the people you follow, like their contributions to the culture, and now they're just forcing you to like watch and observe other people's that isn't in line with you. So there's a lot of different conversations around how can we like leverage design to get out of that mode and to handle things in a lot more ethical and equitable way. So I do a lot of that work. And then in the crypto space, I'm a crypto artist, and I'm also starting to become a founder in the space from a startup perspective, building a marketplace for us, by us, among other things as well. So.
All right, super dope. Thank you, Amir. So hey, everybody, my name is Rock Crawford. I'm a creative pioneer. Long story short, ever since I was very young, I was just kind of birthed in the arts. My mom had me in everything from, art lessons to dance classes to music, like everything. And everything stuck. So kind of growing up, I've always been immersed in the arts, and that evolved into being now. I have a multi-dimensional creative agency called World Owned. And we consult, design, and brand, content, arts, and tech for the entertainment space. Especially in this crypto blockchain space, looking to merge these worlds, form new special relationships and just do some amazing things. And I think culturally speaking, it's time to write, new narratives. We have the old narrative that's been running in the world. And it's time for new narratives, new myths in the world, a new way of living, a new way of being. And we kind of see that collective consciousness happening right now around the globe, with many of the protests and all the new changes that are taking shape. So I'm excited about that, and also helping creating those new stories. What do those new like animated series look like? You said Law, for your young one as they grow up, what are those new cartoons going to look like? What are they going to be teaching? What are those new stories? Who are those characters? Like all those types of things. So I'm in that space. I'm involved, I'm a creative director as well for the Bushwick Film Festival. I've worked with Viacom, DC Comics. I was there for a while, NBA. Was a speaker and an organizer for TEDx conversations. And so this has kind of been my space, and this is what I do. And, I'm kind of really excited to be here with both of you to kind of, talk some shop, talk tech, talk about blockchain, and talk about culture as well. Because at the core, of all this humanity is that it's the human aspect that really matters, right? What's the technology without those things? So, I want to talk about that. So I think kind of kicking things off, like crypto crash course for beginners. And I think we'll probably direct this at you, Amir, like, what is this? What is this crypto thing? How would you explain this to someone?
Break that down for us, because a lot of people don't know, man.
No, that's true. That's very true. It's actually funny. I'll make a quick segue before I get into the crash course. There's been a couple of Congress men and women that have working on interesting regulation within the blockchain and crypto space from a financial standpoint, and it kind of and then I've seen like a discussion on Twitter about a lot of pushback in that area, and I think it's interesting because when people think of the word crypto, some of them think of the negative connotation related to the ICOs and like the huge bust of 2018, and kind of like how there was a lot of foul play related to that. And then there's like a bunch of other people who are like, I have no idea what crypto even means. Like, I can't really like comprehend it. And so there's a lot of interesting stuff in the wind that we have to deal with as far as like education, because there's a lot of interesting like friction from that perspective. And so to start this crash course off, I want to preface and say, crypto is kind of like short for describing this technology, which is called a blockchain. And the blockchain is basically an immutable record of proof or truth that a transaction takes place. These transactions are very simple. So for example, it could be me paying you, Law, $1, and the system recognizes that and democratizes across all of the computers within its network to say, yes, that transaction was approved and that transaction happened. It could be something as complex as a system of checks and balances between me getting medical care through insurance and everything in between. And so the blockchain is what powers crypto and cryptocurrency. And the cryptocurrencies are just like a layer of economics that helps power how these transactions take place. Each of these transactions requires miners. These are the collective of people who's leveraging their computer power to democratize the actual transaction. These miners, because they are doing this hard work of leveraging their computer power, everyone else in the ecosystem has to pay what's called gas. Imagine it's just like a tax, right? Like we pay taxes on things, or like sales tax on clothes or sales tax on food. It's sort of the same principle here. We pay tax or gas for every transaction that takes place that we are that we are doing. And so with that, that powers the ecosystem, and to pay that tax, you leverage cryptocurrency. And that's sort of like where crypto was birthed. It's where Bitcoin was originated. And then from there, we have a multitude of other coins that have assimilated as a result. The next most popular is Ethereum, and the Ethereum blockchain that powers the Ethereum token Ether has created the boom that we're in now, as far as the utility and building applications on top of it. And so this is where you're seeing the concept of non-fungible tokens. This is where you're seeing the concept of other cryptocurrencies. They call them altcoins. You're seeing social currency and social money. And all this is sort of like birthed from there. So that's kind of like the rundown of kind of like cryptocurrency and the blockchain, and how they're not synonymous, but they work together. And so when people think of Bitcoin, I want people to think of it as the currency that is powered by its blockchain, but not Bitcoin being the blockchain. Same thing with Ethereum. Ethereum has a blockchain, and Ethereum is also the cryptocurrency that runs it. So.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. And, I'm thinking like on a super simplistic, version of that explanation too. So I'll give you an example. One time I had a classroom that I was teaching, it was an elective. I was teaching at a high school here in New York City, Essex Street Academy. And I had a classroom of 30, 15-year-olds. And I was trying to explain the whole concept to them. So basically, I was saying I had one student, and I gave the student, a pencil.
Right.
And had everybody watching that transaction. And I said, did everyone see that happen? And everyone said, yeah, they definitely. So if you definitely saw it happen, raise your hand. So all the students in their hand, raised their hand. So everyone saw it. So then I had another student come into the classroom, and I said, I gave this student a pencil, and I can prove it. And I said, everyone that saw it, actually raise your hand. So everyone raised their hand. And then I said to the student, so do you believe it now? And the student said, yes, I believe that happened now because everyone else saw it and they raised their hand. And I was just trying to explain that concept. Would you agree with that concept if you explained it to in a super simplistic way?
Totally. That makes a whole lot of sense. Because again, blockchain, when a transaction occurs, it's public. Every transaction is recorded on a public ledger. And so the public ledger would act as all of those kids, or at least in this case, or at least in our case, the real case, the computers raising their hands saying this transaction has taken place. So yeah, it's definitely a one-to-one.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Because what I wanted to do also was just get to that like super simplistic, explanation. Because I think what we're also going to have, you're going to have people coming into this space and they're going to be, asking questions and wanting to know. And, once you because it's like, okay, where do you bite into this sandwich? At what spot do you get in that? And sometimes a lot that's over their head. And as you know, as the technology develops, you're going to have people that are involved in the technology. They don't care what's under the hood, like many things. They want to get in my car, turn the key. I want it to turn on. When I hit the gas, I want to go. Like that's it. They don't need to know how the spark plugs fire and how everything else works. So, but it's good to have that. So yeah, that's also great. That was good to explain. Law, are you still there with us? Oh, I think he might have dipped out for a second. Okay, well, let's keep going. So with blockchain, Amir, you and I have had some conversations in general about talking about the future of creativity on the blockchain. And one thing I found, there almost seems like to be two worlds in this space, right? One is like the financial side. You talk about coins and you're talking about, valuations, you're talking about making money. And you have people that have come into the sector like they don't care about anything else. How can I make money? How can I flip? And how can I get get the money? And then you have the other side, you have the creatives, the artists. And of course, everyone's interested in money, but their focus is like, wow, this is new technology. How can I push the limits of this technology? And in my experience, being in this space, it's just like completely two separate groups of people.
Definitely night and day.
Operating in the same bucket. And for you, would you say that you kind of, you deal with both of those, two audiences, would you say?
Yeah, I definitely toe the line between kind of being in the financial aspect and finding a means to invest in particular cryptocurrencies that are powered by interesting products, platforms, and protocols. And then on the other end, I just started the artistic journey of being a crypto artist in September, and that's been pretty interesting, just kind of building up what that's like and getting interested and involved in those micro communities. All the different exchanges have their own communities. They have their own kind of like framework for how they operate, their own sort of like collectors areas or collector groups. And it's a very interesting world because as an artist, you have to know just enough about crypto and cryptocurrency to get in, and then the rest of it sort of still feels like the traditional art scene where you've got to market make, you've got to identify who your fans are, you've got to identify who a collector could be of your work. You got to identify like how or what platforms might be the most reticent for your style of work, for example. So if you're a person that is very like wants to build like large, like lush, like environments, for example, then perhaps an exchange that's like really open may not necessarily be good for you because it's super saturated. But a market that's like a lot more drilled down and curated, quote unquote, right, then like a place like Super Rare or Maker's Place or Known Origin, for example, might be better for you as an artist. And so there's a lot of hurdles there. And it goes back to what you were talking about as far as getting people like biting into the crypto sandwich. The biggest issue that we have in this space is friction when it comes to getting in and getting educated on what everything is and how to get involved. And like you said, nobody's really that interested as overall layer about how everything sort of is powered. But right now it seems to be that you've got to know to a certain degree what is driving everything in order for you to grasp the concept to evolve. And I feel like the goal to move from where we are now to the massive explosion of creatives to be involved in this space is to remove that friction, is to kind of have something where it is like a plug and play. And that might even be like us, like sort of disguising the fact that all of this is powered by the blockchain in the first place. That might be one particular avenue in which we do this, or it may not. But yeah, I definitely find myself towing the line between the two, and both worlds. I think once you understand crypto and like the technologies that power it, you find the line that connects the two. But if you don't, then you're kind of like still feeling like the artist in the traditional sense. How do I break out into the world, into the scene? And then on the investment side, it's like, how do I make money? What's like the easiest thing that I can invest in? I don't really care about what they do per se, but I'm seeing that this thing is having a lot of money. Like Bitcoin is almost $20,000. How do I get a piece of that? Right? Like, what does that look like? And so I think it's very interesting to figure out how to navigate both of those worlds. And it really requires us to build our own tools to make those connective nodes possible for us.
Yeah, I agree. And I think in the space, creativity, I know for me, been in the space early on. I mentored something with like Super Rare, like early on in the beginning. Had, created this kind of mini artist documentary, and had the founder actually, John Crane, featured in my documentary, talking about me doing this drop and all that. So it was super early on for Super Rare, and just as a creative, it kind of blew my mind as far as like what's possible. The idea of like before, gifts were just for like memes or like some silly things, and now like when you look, it's a GIF file. And it blows people's mind of like, what thousands of dollars now, and it's some like GIF files are selling for it, right?
Yep.
So that's amazing. And I think like just the technology, the coding that's taking place, the merging of music and visual art that's taking place right now. Artists, not having that middle person, in between them on the gallery end, and kind of like growing their careers. And some of the numbers is like blowing my mind. And I've come across other platforms. I don't know if you've ever heard, there's a platform called RevShare, which is a blockchain based like for like the film industry. And so, I had a chance to speak with one of the founders of that, and they kind of gave me a walkthrough. What's really cool about that is it's similar to like an indie type of Netflix where you can watch your film, but not only can you watch your film, you can click on another tab and see all the songs that are on the soundtrack for the film.
Nice.
And you can purchase the music directly. So I thought that was really crazy, And so like, are there any projects like, on chain right now that you're really excited about, that it's kind of like blowing your mind on the creative end that you're kind of geeking out about?
On chain, it's interesting. There's a couple of different projects that are very, very like ground floor and haven't really been out yet. But there's one that I've put some effort into. One's called like Block Racers. It's made by a guy called Art from Machine out in I think he's in New Zealand actually. But so what's interesting is like, so in the art space, for anyone who's listening and those who don't know, when you mint an artwork or an audio file or a video, you create what's called a non-fungible token, an NFT. And these things are from a perspective of knowing the difference between fungibility and non-fungibility, right? Like fungibility is, let's say I give you Raw like $20, right? Now, if you gave if I asked for change for a 20, right, you could give it to me in multiple different ways. It doesn't have to be the exact $20 bill. You could give me 2 10s, 4 5s, whatever, right? That's the concept of fungibility. Everything kind of has the same equal of value, no matter what the object looks like. And for banknotes, it's kind of the easiest thing to put together. But for non-fungibility, everything has their own set of attributes and value systems based upon the person who owns it, based upon the person who created it. And so that way you can't really do a one-to-one trade or exchange. So creative assets is kind of like one of the easiest things to think of non-fungible tokens, or like trading cards, houses, whatever. But that market is insane, right? So OpenSea, one of the largest exchanges for this, kind of put a report out where they have over $80 million of trading activity to date when it comes to like these non-fungible tokens. And so when it comes to these kind of exchanges, I think what's very interesting is seeing a lot of these smaller projects building ecosystems for like games like Block Racers, for example, and create a micro community around them. And then for us being sort of like these initial investors, because we're buying the NFTs as a means to fund the creative development effort of the ecosystem in which these tokens are going to be utilized. I think it's very interesting to see how you can be an active participant in building that community up and kind of getting people excited about it. But that's one of them.
Yeah. Hold on one second, Amir. Hold on. I'm sorry. Hold that thought. Hold on thought. We had Hill Harper join us. Hill, are you there?
Hey, everybody. I'm here. I apologize. I'm on set. I'm in my dressing room right now, but we've been shooting on set, so I apologize for me being late. We're trying to catch it in between scenes, and
no worries. How much time do we have with you now? We want to, before they call you back.
Right. Just a little short. Went about 15 minutes, but it seems like you guys are doing real well without me. So I don't want to interrupt. Amir's got a lot of great things to share. So I appreciate everything.
Oh, for sure. Just to catch you up real quick, and we'll let Amir finish his thought. We're talking about the future of creativity on the blockchain right now. So we're talking about, just in short, blowing our minds on the creative end, all the things that are possible. And Amir was kind of bringing some of those particular projects that he was really excited about and things that are happening right now. He was sharing some of that information with us.
Absolutely. Great to listen in.
All right. So Amir, you want to finish up that thought, and then maybe Hill, you can.
What's up, Amir? How you doing?
How's it going, sir? I'm great. How you been? Awesome. No, I'm actually good. Let's let's have him talk about his thing real quick. That'd be great.
Okay, great. All right. So Hill, we're gonna pass the mic back to you. So tell us about, you just drove in to get us caught up to speed. What are you doing in the blockchain space? What are you excited about right now creatively?
You know what? I think Amir should keep talking because I'm trying to set up a more stable internet connection. So I just got this. Let me get connected to that, and I'll jump back on so it's better.
Okay.
Connected.
All right. Totally cool. So Amir, so how about what's really blowing my mind in this space right now? Can we just talk about metaverses?
Yes, totally.
Blockchain metaverses. Shout out to CRYPTO BASEL. Shout out to Decentraland. I mean, how has the metaverse changed your life or added to it in some kind of way right now?
Yeah, so to make it real quick, I mean, I think the interesting thing about these metaverse spaces, and these are like 3D environments for anyone who's not aware, right? You can experience them from a virtual reality perspective or through the browser. But these 3D environments, I mean, what's nuts about them is the fact that you can build means of commerce through these things. If you're a creative and you want to make like your own, let's say like clothing that you can sell to other people to wear virtually, like that's an avenue for you. If you want to invest in like these parcels and build houses and like these interesting architectural environments for people, then you can sell those off as well. That's another means of like, leveraging your creativity and making bank off of it. And these people are investing real hours, time, resources, money to like really make these worlds like not colloquials to our own, but something far different and perhaps even far greater, depending on kind of like where their vision is. So I'm very excited to see kind of like how these other universes will be interconnected at some point in the future. And then kind of like what we may even do or inhabit, like who knows, we may be even spending most of our time in these virtual environments later in life versus the ones that we physically inhabit, or there might be a hybrid between the two. So I'm very excited about it.
Yeah. Law, creativity, music, the blockchain. Talk to us. What are you excited about right now?
Man, I'm just excited that we're even in that space of even considering it. Because I remember at one point, a couple of years back, it was always this talk that this wasn't going to last, this wasn't going to exist, don't get involved. And I'm the type of guy, when someone says that, then I'm going to be like, okay, then let me go download Coinbase and just do my entire history. And you know what? I'm going to put some money in it and just see exactly where it is, where like now we have all these different coins and things happening. But I mean, I think that labels, most definitely all record labels and should get involved. I think it'll be a good way of like us even transferring unreleased material, new mixes, private records. And I think like even like if I'm in the studio and stuff like that, we have records that's happening and stuff like that, then we can I think we can use the blockchain to keep it almost like secure as well and stuff like that. So I think another thing, I'm still learning. I'm still learning everything. Like you see, got him in on the call as well. So he's gonna be learning while I'm
He wants to get on camera, man. He wants to say what's up.
Right. So yeah, I think it's a tool that we most definitely need to take serious, because I don't want to be on the tail ends of realizing how significant it can be in the music world. Like I can see an artist like Jay Electronica existing totally in the crypto space because it just adds to his myth of artistry and stuff like that. So I think, I mean, Amir, I want to like, how can that actually work in that space as far as like the transferring of music, beats, production, stuff like that? Like, how can we actually like have those two verticals happening at the same time, where you know what I'm saying, it'd be lucrative and people can make money off it, but it also can maintain the integrity in the composition of the music.
Right. I mean, I definitely think it's if we're able to build, a connecting platform that may even connect to like, let's say like there's a company called Audius right now, that if you put your work through there and you make your artwork, your music through there, right, then like it basically tokenizes your art. And so we can create protocols and platforms like this that then also say, okay, it's not just like Jay Electronica, but let's also, who else is involved in the liner notes, right? Like who, like if we have like any accompanying musicians or any sample clearances, whatever the case is, how do we get all those people involved? So then when like people stream or like interact with that music content, especially within like the virtual world space, then how do you guys get automatically paid every time that song gets heard, right? Like we could build contracts around that, increasing transparency with like the artist and their music and how they actually really get paid, and they get paid fairly. And then on our end, we get to experience these artists in these virtual worlds. Like you're saying, Jay Electronica is a very mysterious guy. I mean, same thing with like MF Doom, for example. If he embodied this kind of world, and you already know he has the supervillain persona, so that's already an interesting layer that you can add from a narrative perspective in these spaces too. So I definitely believe that if we as cultural vanguards take ownership of building systems to connect these things together, then we'll be able to see not just like people take on to this very well, but it will definitely be very lucrative for all of us.
Right. So. You mentioned a real good point about the contracts and stuff like that, which is very important, especially when you're working with artists that has a lot of samples. You have a lot of writers, then you have someone that sampled another artist, and then it's like 5 people that actually was a part of just one part, maybe 5 seconds of the beat. So I think the transaction of that and making sure that everyone is compensated, but also making sure that everyone has the proper credit is real important. I think that's a good space that this crypto world can also assist in, because like the emails and stuff, like making sure that agreements and stuff like that are actually signed is like a whole different thing. Like once you get the contract, and making sure you get responses on time when you have to meet deadlines. So I think it kind of like speed up the process as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And kind of chime in on that as well, Law. I think, one of the things too is just connecting with the right people in any world that you're going into, right? And having that conversation and having that one-on-one dialogue or group dialogue, and let people show you kind of things that are happening right now. There's some amazing things happening right now in the space with people's avatar and music and visual things. That's just, it would absolutely blow your mind, especially, I don't know if you had a chance to explore any of the metaverses yet. The things. Okay. Yeah, some of the things that are going on, but what's really great that we're having this panel right now, because we all have real doers on this panel. So definitely reach out, and let's connect and build, because we're here and this is what we're all about, and this is what we're doing. I wanted to jump over really quick to Hill, because he's back on. I think he's tightened up his connection. How you doing over there?
I did. Thank you. And it's great hearing that. I mean, at the end of the day, what we're talking about fundamentally is about ownership and maintaining your ownership in your creation. And obviously, we as Black folk, historically, we've always been multi-hyphenate creators. We are, as Amir says, the cultural vanguards. But where the interruption or the road bump or the obstacle has come is when they erect barriers to entry. And usually those barriers to entry are erected systemically. And the danger that we're even seeing now systemically, we understand systemic racism, we understand all of that, but since we're not actually writing the algorithms and actually behind the coding, this systemic racism is bleeding into the code. Now, the blockchain gives us this opportunity, though, to reduce all of those barriers to entry and be extremely entrepreneurial in this space at a very low entry cost. And so that being the case, we can be our own owners of our own material, track where it goes, and control it to the extent that if it's not being treated properly and or not being compensated, for instance, let's use the Dave Chappelle, most recent Dave Chappelle situation. Dave is a friend of mine. I did a pilot with him years ago, and he's basically asking people to not watch the Chappelle show because he wasn't compensated adequately. He's been sold, and people have made tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars off this work product for which he was not compensated. Now, if he had control of that work product, he wouldn't have to ask people not to watch it. He could just suck it back into his ownership vortex, right? Into his system, and then control the work product. So we're entering a new phase, but here's the deal: we have to be proactive in the space. And so I've been working on a platform called Black Wall Street. And that's all about ownership. It's all about attempting to replicate what Black Wall Street was in the blockchain, in tech. And what are the pillars that created wealth? Because in 1863, at the time of the emancipation, Black people owned a little less than 1% of America's wealth. In December, actually now, 2020, Black people in America own a little less than 1% of America's wealth.
Insane.
So it's an abomination, but it's a purposeful abomination. We can see that at every point we're grabbing it. There are new systemic ways to take it away. Mm-hmm. And Tulsa, Greenwood District, Black Wall Street is probably the most aggressive and egregious example, because that was one of the most prosperous 40 acres, 1,200 businesses, 1,200 homes owned, eight banks, 7 insurance companies, black butchers, barbers, artists, blacksmith, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A dollar changed hands within that ecosystem a minimum of 7 times, usually up to 30 to 60 times before it left the ecosystem. And that capital flow is what actually created the wealth, right? Flowing the capital. Right now, a dollar doesn't stay in our community more than on average a minute, because we don't have places to spend it, at least in our minds, and that are convenient in the same kind of way. So the blockchain can solve that problem. And that's what we're working on. We're working on creating an ecosystemic platform to deal with an ecosystem of problems, an ecosystem of solutions through the blockchain, the ecosystem of problems. And we can do a deeper dive into that, but I don't want to just.
I have a question. I have a question for you guys, because I've been studying it and paying attention to it for the past couple of years. But what I have come to realize, like even in these conversations, like I was on Clubhouse in the conversation that Lady Phoenix was having the other day, how do we kind of I don't want to say dumb it down, but almost kind of like explain it where the people that we can offer it up, where we can get more brothers and more sisters to understand how important it is to be involved. Because I was in a conversation the other night, and I'm kind of versed in it, and some of the stuff they were mentioning, I didn't know what the hell was going on. So I think it's important that we also think about how can we explain this to the common guy that's on the street, that we know most definitely we need to bring these guys in the fold. Because when we mention breaking the economical wealth, like we want to spread that information as wide as possible, but we also need to be able to relate that information to our young kids in high school and middle school, junior high school. Like I think we need to target as young as possible and get them to understand like the ins and outs of it, and also kind of like giving them a step-by-step guide of how they can invest, where to start and stuff like that. So how can we actually do that?
Well, I mean, that's exactly what I've been working on, and I learned that actually through my first book, Letters to a Young Brother, which came out in 2007. The whole publishing industry told me young brothers don't read. That's the systemically racist view, rather than actually looking at themselves and saying, well, maybe we're not actually publishing books that they're interested in reading. Instead, you make that perfect point, Law. We have to make it extremely culturally familiar and safe and trustworthy, because part of the biggest issue when it comes to money, and the reason why we as a community do so much mattress money and parlay in cash and send money via Western Union and all the things that we know, and go to check cashing spots, even though they're taking 18% off the top, we feel more comfortable seeing that cash handed underneath the window than putting it in some place where we can't see it, touch it, smell it, because we've been ripped off by these institutions time and time and time again. And so we have to bring value to folks first, and do it in a way, like you said, that feels very familiar, very digestible, and very understandable. Okay. And we can do that. We just have to all work together. That's part of like the creative discussion with yourself, part of a creative discussion with Amir, how we build these things that become very plug and play. Folks are used to gaming. Folks are used to a lot of different entrepreneurial things that they're into. I like to repurpose skill sets. There's a lot of young brothers on the corner. They understand entrepreneurial sales. So, okay, if I already understand, they understand entrepreneurial sales, how could I get them onto the blockchain and say, okay, well, you understand sales or peer-to-peer lending, so to speak. You're used to doing it with cash and make sure you did get this done and move money here, and then make sure I get a return for this because I'm going to give you money to execute this situation. We could do that on the blockchain, but it's just happening virtually, and it can be plug, plug, plug. And so basically saying you can repurpose that same exact skill set you're comfortable with, and we can do it right here. So it's about creating games. It's about creating contests. It's about giving back value. It's about creating music, creating art, creating all the things that we feel comfortable and familiar with and we trust already, but in showing how it connects to the blockchain. I'm sure Amir has something to add to that too.
Word. I just want to say both are salient points. Very great question too, Law. It's one of those things that, you know, and it's something, Hill, we talked about the other day where, you know, when it comes to building these sort of systems, perhaps maybe the idea is to almost disguise it, like mask it as if it's something that they're already used to, but it's been operating under this blockchain layer the entire time. And then we flip that switch and then it's like, wait a minute, like something is different here, but yet more valuable than I thought it was going to be. And then it's like, well, because you're a part, like everything that you've done has been a part of this ledger. Everything that you've done has been part of this means of transparency. And because of that work and because of the collective work of everyone else that has all participated in this system, we've now created a circular economy as a result of all your efforts. And we can be able to visualize that in a very compelling way that we wouldn't have done before. And so I think, you know, one of the biggest things, and I've talked about this a lot with certain people, and they're like, well, you know, what if I'm thinking of, we should build circular economies in, you know, neighborhoods that some of us may have grown up in, or, you know, we know about, right? Like disenfranchised communities and neighborhoods. And those people and other people have been saying, well, if you give money to them, won't they just like spend it on like something like reckless or whatever? And I'm saying, no, like being poor is tricky because it's you're in a situation to where you're always drowning. And it's like money comes in and it's automatically right out. But what happens when we give them more is that we're allowing them to have agency. They can exercise the ability to make an actual decision other than just survival. And like, and if we're able to leverage the blockchain to create that form of agency, then these people are going to be able to know and figure out, okay, well, now that I actually can make a different decision, I can think for once, right? I have this clarity because now I'm not thinking about where everything is coming from. Like being able to say, I want to invest my money into this or do something in this context or participate in this revenue generation pot or whatever the case is, becomes much more of a reality. And I think, you know, for those of us who have the agency already, it's up to us to engineer the tools so that we can then like push that to everywhere else. So all of our boats rise at the same time.
Absolutely. But on top of that, though, what we want to develop is an ownership mentality. And
absolutely, yeah.
The way we start to develop that is to actually show it. Good example would be we set up let's just take Nike shoes, for example. And if we say, listen, there's going to be a special on the Law Nike, and it's only going to be 2,000 of them. But you only get access to them if you have access to this particular coin, or you only do it through this digital wallet or model that is Black owned. And what we do as a bonus is that if you buy these Nikes, we're going to give you into your account fractal share ownership in Nike stock. And all of a sudden, what starts to happen is that people start making their own connections. Because remember, the blockchain is all about connections. They start making their own connections. Like, yo, there's what I buy, I can also own the company or be an owner and participate. And as soon as our community starts making those connections, that's when it goes like fire. Because then you say, well, hold up, I actually don't want to buy anything that I don't actually have some ownership in. And as soon as we flip that switch, we can start creating rules in the blockchain that incentivize you purchasing things from the types of vendors that create support and success in the blockchain, also create success and support and ownership in our community. All of that is programmable, but you're right, it's all about behavior, and we have to go to the base first and build from there.
Right.
Yeah, and I'll just chime in to add too, kind of jumping on that question, answering your question, Law. Even without the technology, it's almost about, it's about coming together, so we're talking about the blockchain, this new frontier. So all these things that we want to do have to come together, and there needs to be examples of that, right? So you said that new person, a new kid who just learns about blockchain, where can they go? What's the resources happening? Where's the cool place to go to tap into a culture that looks and feels like them? Where are the projects that are being presented to them that look really cool? Who are those leaders, those cultural leaders? What are those cool things that are happening? Like you mentioned, Hill, about the dropping, the Nike project and stuff. Those kind of cool things draw kids' attention. They draw people in, but before all of that can happen, there has to be some kind of collective meeting, collaborating, and building these things. And coders, like you mentioned as well, Hill, coders behind the scenes, writing that code, developing those smart contracts. And and so one of the things I'm excited about, even partnering with Amir, we're part of this collective that we recently formed, and this is part of the work that we're doing, so it's really great to connect with you as well. Again, after this offline, we can continue that conversation as a group, but we're doing those things, like you said, Law, we're working on building that and being vanguards of the culture, and including that education component into it as well. And we're going to be addressing those kind of things and kind of onboarding people, so you tap a friend and be like, yo, you need to check this out. And then they can go there to get all those resources that they need. They can learn and start building from there.
And Amir is absolutely right. There's a saying that I'm sure you all have heard. It's expensive to be poor, and right, and that's intentional.
Yeah.
Right. I'll give you an example. I was in New Orleans. I owned a building in New Orleans, right off the 9th Ward, and I felt that it was a perfect location for like a Trader Joe's or a Whole Foods or a Fresh Choice, something that could actually bring produce into this food desert.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went to meet with the execs from the different companies, they said, "Well, Hill, you don't get it. You don't understand. Our organic milk, Whole Foods, it's a little more, it's more expensive than these people are used to paying or can pay." And I said, no, you don't get it. They're actually paying more for a not very good quart of milk at the corner store than they would be paying across the street at your highfalutin Whole Foods, because it's a food desert right now, and the corner stores and these folks are actually jacking the price up. It's more expensive. That bad quart of milk is more expensive than your organic milk at Whole Foods. They're like, whoa. And so if we can begin to address all of these different issues through tech, I use the example all the time. Uber solved a racist problem unknowingly, because Travis, who created Uber, he didn't realize that with the creation of Uber, they would solve the black man not getting a cab in New York City. Yeah. So I raised my hand, and the cabs would drive by, and people say, "Well, no, the free market's going to solve that." No. Systemic racism is stronger than the dollar. All these people who say the market's going to solve it think that the dollar is stronger than racism. Racism is stronger than the dollar. The cabbie will pass you up even though you got money in your pocket. But Uber doesn't do that. Why? Because it's agnostic. All you need is that app, and the car shows up and you get in it. Right. And the same thing can happen within what we're talking about, our ecosystem. It can strip away the systemic stuff and make it just about the tech. And if we're able to do that, our creativity will win the day. We're going to win the day every time. And that's why I'm betting on us, but we got to get in it now.
Right. Sure. That's a perfect segue. So I want to bring up this topic. We're talking about, as you just mentioned, Hill, get in it now. All these things are happening. Let's talk about, blockchain. We know it's an immutable record. Let's talk about, our history, the culture, being on the blockchain. Our collective had a really interesting conversation. I'll just kind of get you caught up to speed. in short, there was, artists putting up different types of artwork. And I saw a trend starting to happen in artwork. As you know, during 2020, you had so many, black men that were killed by police. And all of a sudden, there was this kind of weird trend started coming into crypto art, was you start seeing those faces on crypto art. And so after a while, I was starting to see, if you see a black face, it was a murdered black man that was being sold on the blockchain as artwork. And so that I got really uncomfortable with that. So we talked about that conversation. So this brings us to a broader topic, which is when we talk about culture, we talk about images, we talk about the new narrative, and we talk about the blockchain space. What are your thoughts on that? Is it a blank slate? Do we have chance to write our own history, rewrite history? Should that past narrative be brought over to the blockchain? What are your thoughts about that, Law?
Yeah, I think any way that we can preserve our history and even build on top of the history, because like right now, we're living within history right now. I think that what's happening now, we're actually can be written in the history books. Like I said, I had a son in the pandemic. Like we did a home birth. And one of those reasons was because at one point they wasn't even allowing the spouse to even go in the hospital. Luckily, we were preparing to even go through that experience in a home. But I'm thinking that even my wife having a kid at home during a pandemic, like that's history. Like everything that we're doing now, building up on top of it, but also like I don't want to say like rewriting history, but also like building the next civil rights leaders like that we have now. So like what you're seeing right now with all these different movements and even the push for reparations, like I think like what's going on now, like we need to preserve it. We also need to build on top of it for like the generations to come. I'm writing a book. I'm from New Orleans. My book is Notes of New Orleans Native Son. I'm speaking on from my birth up until Hurricane Katrina. The reason why I stopped at Hurricane Katrina was because what happened with me prior to Hurricane Katrina got me to where I'm at now. I don't need to speak about everything from Katrina up until now because to me, it came across as like I'm bragging up on what I was able to accomplish then. But like the struggle of my life prior to Katrina and what I went through being in a hotel one's blown out and from the Houston Astrodome to a gymnasium in Dallas and living in that gymnasium for 2 weeks with my grandparents. Like those stories need to be told. And the reason why I wanted to write a book, I also created my own family crest because we don't have no crest. Like you see all these crests and stuff like that from these different royal families and Greek. So I want to develop my own crest and stuff that I can, like if I want my family crest, I can put it in the crypto space and now it's just existing. So if someone pull up, man, what Law was doing in 2020, family crest, book, son. So I think all of these things, like we want to maintain Malcolm X legacy. We want to maintain Du Bois, the Talented Tent, Tuskegee, HBCUs, all these type of things. Beyonce performing at Coachella and what she did with HBC, all of those things that happened from so far long ago up until now, Marcus Garvey, we want to preserve that. We want to put it in the crypto space so it can exist. So 10 years, 50 years from now, those kids that say, oh man, I never heard of it. Oh, let me go. Oh, Malcolm X and all these different things, Hill Harper, Amir, right? Like we want to put our existence in this space so it can last. You know what I'm saying? So I'm with it. Like I'm already set and ready to dive straight into it because I see where it's going at it. And I want to be a part of it. And like Hill was saying, like getting in early. And I want to be a spokesman. Like I tell all my friends about it. I'm even downloading the app, sending them articles, like, and just trying to educate them on how important it is, because I also noticed that at one point they were saying that it wasn't going to last. So I'm thinking like, okay, then so it wasn't going to last, but then all of a sudden it just went boom. So that means no, you were just telling certain people it wasn't going to last, but you was behind the scenes working on it and developing it. So that was almost like, I think, a structural thing to keep us out of it. So I'm what you guys are doing, man, I commend you. I'm a part of it. I want to talk offline and get involved as much as possible, and whoever I'm affiliated with, and just educating the brothers and sisters. I want to be a part of that as well, because I think everything that we've been through and how we still here maintaining and still existing and striving and still pushing through is I think is just amazing that, you know what I'm saying, we're spiritual people. And then I think that spirit also should exist in the crypto space.
Amen.
100%.
Amen. Amen.
Absolutely.
Hill, what do you think about the narrative and the culture and the blockchain, the immutable record? What are your thoughts on that? Can you hear me, Hill?
I thought you said, I'm
No,
sorry.
I was jumping. Yeah.
I'm just going to applaud Law. I'll
Okay.
tell you, everything he just said is so true. And that's why, you know, there's that quote, fierce urgency of now. There's a fierce urgency of now. This is why. Everything he just laid out. Because if we're not in it, those same systemic barriers are going to be transmuted in. It's much more difficult for them to do within the blockchain because the whole purpose of it is for it to be decentralized. That's how it was written and designed for decentralization. But the thing is that we know that technology never stops. And we know that if it's just white dudes and Asian dudes writing code, you know, I don't want to be too stereotypical, but that's who's writing code right now in the US. And then you got Russians and you got folks in India and you got folks doing, but that's pay to play. If it's just those folks doing it, and then the pay to play folks are just writing code that they're being told to write by who? Rich white folk, Asian folk. We will be left out. So we have to jump in full force and bring everybody with us in whatever way we can familiarize folks. I tell people, you know, we're talking about blockchain globally, but you know, we just talk about cryptocurrency right now real quick. I tell people just set up an account so you can start doing some dollar cost averaging, even if it's $1 a day, $2, $5, just so you start to understand, and then you'll get exposed to an article. You'll read that article. What is Bitcoin? How does that work? What's a Satoshi? How does that work? Okay, what's the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum? And so what's Litecoin? What's Ripple? What are these other altcoins, and how come people call them shit coins, and all these terms come up, and what's the connective tissue here? And that just starts, and then you realize that cryptocurrency is this tip of the iceberg that represents this massive blockchain that's underneath the water, you know, because remember, the iceberg, much more of the ice is underneath the water than pokes out of the water. And that's what cryptocurrency is for a visualization. It's that little peaks that poking out of the water right now. But once you start going into it, you start to learn that there are rules to it, which are common in the code. And therefore you're able to be creative within that space. And that is the critical key. That's why us working together is so important. I'm so happy to have connected with Amir, Lady Faye. So happy to connect with you, Law and Ra, because we have to work together. We can't do it on our own because there's just too much information and too many tentacles. We have to be connecting with each other to end up where we need to go in the blockchain. And so we've been so used systemically to, you know, I've met so many brothers that have foundations that do the exact same thing. And I'm like, how y'all ever gonna scale if all your nonprofits, well, you know, I want to serve the kids. I want to serve the kids. It's like, yeah, we all, okay. So why don't we figure out a way to work together? We have to in this space. We have to. So anything you're doing, I'm saying right now, you brothers right here, anything y'all doing, I'm supporting. If you hit me and DM me or email me or text me, say, Hill, I need you to put this out for me. I'm putting it out for you. It's a universal yes automatically because we have to support each other. Anybody comes after you, I'll say, why are you coming after my brother-in-law? Why are you coming after Amir? Anybody who attacks you, we have to be supportive on attacks because we're going to get attacked because we're going to be first out. We're going to be the ones out in front. So people are like, oh, no, this is just a scheme. You know, they trying to steal your money. You know, they're trying to, it's snake oil. We have to be able to educate and guard against the attacks, right? And then support each other. It's so critical, so critical.
Yeah, that's a beauty. Amir, what do you think? You know, we've talked about a little bit, but I'd love you to, you know, everyone else to hear your thoughts about, you know, blockchain history, you know, curating the narrative. What are your thoughts on that?
So I want to commend both Law and Hill on their answers because, first of all, 100 times yes on everything. Preservation of our existing culture is super important. Championing each other's work and what we're doing is also very important. Coming together is very important. And then, you know, lastly, I feel as though ownership is, you know, somewhat of a, yes, this is mine, but also responsibility. And, you know, we can look at a lot of other cultures and they have this collective responsibility about cherishing and preserving and making sure that their culture is not necessarily like policed, but in a way in which it says, hey, like, nah, if you want to represent us or you want to like talk about us or whatever, here's how you do that. But then when it comes to us, like, you know, us Black people, especially here in America, not necessarily just the overall diaspora, right, but coming to us specifically, you know, when it comes to us reclaiming our words, our terms and things of that nature, folks are just like, well, it's just a word or slavery just happened, get over it. And so I think we, through blockchain, we're able to, and the preservation of our culture on that technology, we're able to now say, well, no, we have a collective consciousness around our culture, and then that's going to enable that enables us to say, hey, listen, like, you can't just kind of come in and be pervasive and invade our space and our cultural nodes and leverage them for your own personal profit. Without us and without us getting our you know, our just due. I mean, and we've seen this time and time again from the young woman who created the On Fleek you know, cultural phenomenon through Vine, or you know, people kind of just like taking, for example, in the crypto art space, I've seen a lot of, you know, like dudes from Poland, Finland, or whatever, like making these renditions of famous artists, most notably like Travis Scott, and profiting directly off of that. But if you see a Black person making that same artwork, then our work is considered, you know, uninspired, or our work is considered something that like wouldn't be bought or sold for the amount of money in which they're getting their work bought and sold. And so putting things on the blockchain is definitely a means of responsibility for us. And then it allows us to build newer constructs of ourselves and of our culture moving forward. So I think it's amazing that we'll be able to make that happen once we, you know, as we're coming together. And I think that that resounding yes, that unequivocal yes, Hill, that you've talked about is something that if other Black folk with means and access are able to say and can say for the efforts in which we're doing, then we'll get there much faster than what people think. And I think we'll be those powerhouses creating these types of environments that for those that come after us, they don't have to worry about it. It's for them, it's only about how can we increase the utility, what other nodes can we stretch out and build new things for now that we have this foundation. But you know, part and parcel to the work that I'm doing in building an art exchange for people like us, for us, by us, is sort of that construct of building that sort of foundation as creatives. And if we're able to do that, then, you know, sky's the limit for us.
Yeah, that's amazing. We just got the message that we are going to wrap very soon, but Ladies Fee's going to jump in with some last comments. I just want to say my last comment. It's a pleasure meeting all of you brothers. And I feel like, you know, universally, there's definitely a shift in something happening right now. I know for me personally, I'm meeting so many amazing people, like power doers, key people. And so it's time, and you feel it. And the sky's the limit. And I look forward to connecting you. We all dropped our emails in the chat. So let's connect, let's build. This is it. It's time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for being here. Day 3 is shaping up to be really powerful. I knew this was going to be the panel, so I'm excited. And I'm excited that we all get how urgent it is that we make this move. The guys, so we have our collective, Amir and Ra and I are in a collective, and I'm always telling them the vortex is open right now. We have a chance right now to get it. There are no stipulations on who can get it. The literal vortex of opportunity is open. And my personal mantra is the universe wants me to win. And I feel the universe wants the culture to win. We are the original mothers and fathers of this planet, this system. Science has already proven that. We have already proven that on a variety of levels. We have to now step into that power and own it. And it's not going to be everyone. I really want folks to get that are listening and seeing this panel. Your brother, sister, grandma, cousin, neighbor, whoever might not want to step through that portal with you. You have to be okay with that. You have to be at peace with understanding that there's some people who are not going to see your vision and hold your vision. It can't stop you from moving forward and doing what you need to do. If you have this calling on your life, if you've connected and clicked up with people who have that similar calling and feel the urgency, move with them and don't judge or be hard on people who don't have that calling or don't feel the urgency. Because it only takes a critical mass of people, like 16, maybe 24%, to actually move the entire world, right? So I just want to leave people with that idea. As we're talking about these things, building, clicking up. I mean, this is a time for transformer, right? For Lego, you are whole and empowered, beautiful, seen, important in your own right. Click up with people who are the same. Form that Lego ship and really start building and don't be afraid of adding massive value. You don't have to get something straight away from a relationship. Just be happy you are relating, right? Be happy you're in, league and in company with great thinkers, thought leaders, people whose soul and heart are on fire to do something. Figure out how you can add value to them. And then if it's a reciprocal relationship, they'll add value to you. But I think that we also have to start thinking about legacy in other ways, legacy of actually adding to someone else's legacy, being a Lego in their empire, right? Yeah, so thank you, gentlemen. I really appreciate your time. I feel like as Black men, it's, you are the kings of this space, and that's not against anyone who is not Black, but you are the first fathers. So for me, this panel was symbolic of that. The first fathers must step into their role and take their place, right? If they burn down the stilts upon which this world is held, and the other pieces of wood from which those stilts were built, sit back and watch it happen, then we have nothing. So Black men, I want to honor you. I want to champion your efforts and your works. And I want to say thank you for, thank you for your beingness. I think sometimes Black men don't get enough praise and enough championing and enough positive words. There's a lot of efforts to make Black men look like thugs and, absentee fathers and, terrible credit and sleeping with several women. And that's just absolutely not the case. I think that is a slim occurrence, whereas what we see here before us is the norm. Great thought leaders, entrepreneurs, intelligent, beautiful, thoughtful, caring, forward-thinking individuals. So heights, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you.
Right on. Well, yeah, we'll click up offline. Thank you everyone for coming to day 3 of Crypto Basel. Stay tuned. We have the Museum of Uncut Funk coming up at 3 o'clock, talking about how funk is an integral part of any revolution, especially the crypto revolution. We'll see you guys at 3 o'clock.
I'm gonna be there too.
Awesome. See you then.
Peace.